class of 2025. The host for today's ceremony is the Honorable Brent G. Ingraham, the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology, and the Army Acquisition Executive. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the playing of our national anthem and the invocation delivered by Chaplain Mark McCorkle.
Let's pray. Almighty God, we thank you for your presence with us today. Loyal and selfless serving Americans have been the bedrock of our country, showing the victories we've experienced in our nation. Men and women have sacrificed time, talent, and treasure to provide the best they have for a country they love. Today, we honor those being inducted into the Army Acquisition Hall of Fame. We pray over each of them and where they lead, to be a welcoming chapter of your power and protection that can only come from you. Let your honor be a beacon of distinction, seeing favor with them, that will remain now and until the years to come. In your holy name we pray, amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. Please be seated. Since its inception, the United States Army has relied on specialists to provide the products and services needed by soldiers in peace and war. Army acquisition has been characterized by technological developments, surges in times of war, and evolving threats that drove the configuration of our Army and materiel development organizations that support it. In 1973, the Army identified 5 priority weapon systems, known as the Abrams tank, Patriot, Apache helicopter, Bradley fighting vehicle, and Black Hawk helicopter. By 1978, the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Research and Development took on responsibilities for procuring weapons and equipment and was renamed the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Research, Development, and Acquisition. The Goldwater-Nichols Department of Defense Reorganization Act of 1986, signed by President Ronald Reagan, made the most sweeping changes to the United States Department of Defense since the department was established in the National Security Act of 1947 by reworking the command structure of the United States military. In 1989, General Carl E. Buono, then Chief of Staff of the Army, authorized the establishment of the Army Acquisition Corps, a cadre of elite professionals that would be trained to fill critical acquisition positions. In 1999, the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Research, Development, and Acquisition was disestablished, and the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology, ASALT, was established. From the start, ASALT has delivered capabilities to the warfighter. The story of the Army Acquisition Corps has been one of continuous innovation and evolution with one constant: dedicated professionals who are focused on delivering capabilities to our Army and the Joint Force. The Army Acquisition Workforce, the warfighting acquisition workforce, is charged with a critical mission to cultivate innovation, design the impossible, and provide soldiers with what they need to be successful. This is done through people, a technically diverse workforce of Army acquisition professionals, from scientists and engineers to accountants to program managers, who turn Army requirements into products and services, managing everything from cradle to grave. Studies show that the most effective leaders are transformational, authentic, and empowering. These leaders are statistically linked to higher workplace performance, job satisfaction, and the innovative behaviors required to drive successful organizational outcomes. Today, we honor 5 of our elite professionals and leaders who exhibit just those qualities and have paved the way for those of us who have followed in their footsteps. We would like to take the moment to recognize our inductees, former inductees who have joined us today from the inaugural Hall of Fame. Honorable Kevin Fahey, Mr. Dan Shipley, son of John Shipley, Ms. Maureen Cross, and Mr. Jeffrey Parsons. Inductees, please stand. All over. Thank each of you for attending today. We would also like to recognize Honorable Katrina McFarland, Honorable Douglas Bush, Honorable Bruce Jetty, Dr. Susan Myers, the general officers and SESs that are in attendance today. Thank you. The video you're about to view will show highlights from last year's Army Acquisition Hall of Fame induction ceremony. The Army Acquisition Hall of Fame Award was established by Honorable Douglas R. Bush to recognize and honor former members of the Army acquisition workforce who have made significant and enduring contributions in support of the Army acquisition community. The program's intent is to preserve the legacy of the acquisition community and inspire a sense of heritage, honor, and pride throughout the workforce. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our host for today's ceremony, the Honorable Brent G. Ingraham.
Good morning. Actually, it's an absolute honor to be here. Before I get started with formal remarks, did anyone see the smile on Doug Bush's face today? Compared to those videos? Good, Doug? Much better. Excellent. No, truly, it is an honor to stand here before you all today and see not everyone here. I know there's a lot of people online and really appreciate what the Army Acquisition Corps has done, not only for our Army, but for our country. And so just right up front, our heartfelt thank you to everyone. This is really the flagship event for the Army Acquisition Awards program. And it's really a privilege to take part in it for the first time as the Army Acquisition Executive. The Hall of Fame is not simply about recognizing distinguished careers. It exists to honor the leaders whose work built the foundation this community stands on today, and to remind the workforce that follows what lasting impacts this profession has and what it actually looks like. I want to begin by thanking the chaplain for that meaningful invocation. And I'd also like to start by thanking the team who organized the ceremony today. That team that oversees the Hall of Fame program itself, the current and former acquisition leaders who served in this year's selection committee, Thank you all. So round of applause for all of those to get to see all here. Each of you plays an important role in making sure the recognition reflects the significance it holds for the Army and for our acquisition workforce. You know, we originally planned to hold this during AUSA in October, but as everyone knows, the fall brought a few unexpected scheduling complications across the government. You know, fortunately, the workforce is really used to adjusting timelines without adjusting standards, and I'm glad we're able to gather today to recognize the inductees together. As mentioned, we're joined by many distinguished leaders, teammates, and partners from across the Army and the acquisition community. Thank you all for being here. The leadership you provide this enterprise every day is outstanding. And whether you're on the inside or outside, thank you for all you all do. I think it's the Adam Tell here. So Adam Tell is our Assistant Secretary for Civil Works. He may be online, but he was trying to be here today. Thank you for your leadership, advancing the Army's critical infrastructure and engineering missions worldwide. Build infrastructure, not paper. Thank you, Adam, for driving change. Now, I'm especially honored to be joined by several of our former acquisition executives whose leadership has helped shape the profession. You know, I did some quick math, and I think there's 5 of us here today, 5 out of the 10 AAEs that have been and held the assault position. So thank you, because it's important to see that many of us here. So first to Ms. Katrina McFarland, whose service really strengthened our acquisition policy and workforce development across the department. Ms. Stephanie Easter, who provided steady leadership to our acquisition enterprise during a critical period of transition. Dr. Bruce Jetty, who drove lasting reform in our acquisition system and accelerated how we prototype and field capability to our soldiers. And then Mr. Doug Bush, whose leadership strengthened our industrial base, expanded munition production at a decisive moment for Army readiness, and whose vision established the Army Acquisition Hall of Fame in 2022, making this tradition possible. Again, thank you all. We're pleased to have with us members of the previous Hall of Fame classes in 2023, Mr. Jeff Parsons and his wife Pam, and the 24 inductee, Miss Maureen Cross. Thank you for continuing to represent the standards and the recognition that is reflected in this award. Thank you for being here. We're also honored to have Dr. Susan Myers, currently chair of the Counter C5 ISR Army Science and Army Science Board Subcommittee. Dr. Myers has been a long contributed to the intellectual foundation of this enterprise, and we're especially grateful for her presence today as the spouse of the 2022 Hall of Fame inductee, the late Major General Harry Green, an engineer, an acquisition leader, and former PEO who devoted more than 3 decades to strengthen Army capabilities before making the ultimate sacrifice in service in Afghanistan. Thank you for being here. His legacy will continue to shape this community and this profession. And so to all the other senior leaders, teammates, and partners here this morning, thank you. Your continued leadership and support of this workforce and the mission is what keeps us driving every day. You know, not long after I took this role, I spent some time studying the Hall of Fame display in the hallway just outside the office. As many of you have seen if you walk down the hall. It's striking. It really is. It's a great display. Not because of design, but because of the meaning. Each name represents someone whose decision changed outcomes. Programs that move forward faster, systems that work better, capabilities that reach our soldiers sooner. You can see very clearly that progress in this enterprise is cumulative. What we manage today rests on work someone else completed years earlier, often under conditions that are far harder than ours today. You heard some of that, right? You heard a few minutes ago, right? She rattled off sort of 5 systems. When you think about what's happening today in the world, those 5 systems are still very relevant. So thank you for all of what you've done to lead up to this point. You know, that display is there for decoration. It's there for orientation. It tells every person who walks past it what's his profession, execution standards, ultimately values, the measurable impacts, the sound judgment, and how results that hold up over time continue to change the Army. And just as important, maybe even more important than all, is that it shows the workforce the lasting contributions actually look like. Because one of the purposes of this program is to set example for those carrying the mission forward. Those values aren't symbolic. They're the same standards used to select Hall of Fame inductees. Candidates are evaluated on the enduring contributions they made to the mission, the respect they've earned from peers, subordinates, and leaders, and the commitment they demonstrate to strengthening the acquisition profession beyond the boundaries of their formal roles. I've been involved with enough awards programs over the years to know that judging sometimes can be straightforward. Occasionally, there's that clear front runner or a single accomplishment that someone's done to separate that one nominee from the rest. What makes this different is that here you're comparing those leaders whose CVs read less like resumes and more like origin stories. Because of the standards required, even to be nominated, every candidate is exceptional, which I suspect makes serving on the selection panel both an honor and a challenge. That is the standard associated with this Hall of Fame, and why it's rare, and why induction is rare. That's really the level of contribution represented by the 5 leaders we're going to recognize today. Before I speak about them individually, I want to acknowledge their families. Careers like these are demanding. They involve long hours, high-stakes decisions, and responsibilities that don't end when the workday does. They carry real purpose, and the families here today have been a part of that mission every step of the way. Thank you, families. You support the late nights, the sudden schedule changes, and the moments when the job had to come first, usually without recognition. So to the families, thank you. This honor reflects your support as much as their achievement. So, round of applause for the families. So it's now my honor to recognize this year's inductees. Lieutenant General Retired William Campbell. Lieutenant General Campbell's career reflects the kind of influence this Hall of Fame exists to recognize. Over 38 years of service, he worked across the operational, the technical, and acquisition roles as a user, developer, tester, and executive, which meant he understood not just how the systems were designed, but how they performed in real-world operations. That perspective shaped programs that modernized intelligence, C5ISR capabilities, and helped define the Army's transition to a digitally connected force. Under his leadership, hundreds of thousands of systems, from radios to sensors, to night vision and battlefield surveillance platforms, were fielded to U.S. forces and allies. General Campbell, we're honored that your wife, Elaine, could be here with you today. Your career reflects something this enterprise depends on more than we sometimes say out loud. Leaders who can connect operational need to technical execution and make sure the two meet in time to matter. Ms. Tracey Pinson. Tracey's impact shows up in a different but equally lasting way. Across more than 3 decades of public service, she helped change how the Army connects innovation to mission. As the director of the Army's Office of Small Business Programs, she oversaw an annual portfolio exceeding $17 billion and used it to ensure small businesses had a real path into the defense industrial base. Under her leadership, the Army led the federal government in small business contracting for more than a decade, increasing participation while strengthening our supply base the force depends on. You can still see her impact today in companies delivering capabilities to the Army. Early in her career, she developed the Department of Defense Mentor-Protege Program, an innovative initiative that proved so effective it became a permanent program and model adopted across the federal government. That kind of institutional impact is rare. We're grateful that Ms. Pinson is represented today by her family, her husband Daryl, and her daughter Maya. Thank you. Mr. Harry Hallock. Mr. Hallock spent more than 37 years in the acquisition, improving how the Army executes programs under real operational pressures. You want to come back? No? He began his career as an intern and eventually served as the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army for Procurement. overseeing more than 130,000 contract actions totaling over $148 billion during one of the most demanding periods in recent histories. Those decisions shaped how quickly equipment reached units in combat, how responsible taxpayer dollars were managed, and how confidently commanders would rely on the systems behind them. He spent much of his career working tactical vehicle programs. I started in the automotive industry myself, and I found that people who come up around machines usually have a simple standard: it has to work. He carried that standard to the acquisition leadership, and the systems he helped field and the workforce he helped build still reflect it. Here he is joined today by his family, Linda, Edward, and Elaine. Thank you for coming. Mr. Gary Martin. Gary's work shaped something soldiers depend on every day, often without thinking about it: the ability to communicate, coordinate, and operate as a connected force. Over more than 3 decades, he delivered network and communication systems that allowed units to function with shared awareness in demanding environments. As PEO for Command, Control, and Communications Tactical, he led a workforce of more than 1,600 responsible for fielding and sustaining those capabilities worldwide, systems that support soldiers daily across every theater of operation. Gary, I can tell you, he's working today. Thank you. He also drove efforts to simplify the network itself, making it easier to operate, train, and sustain while reducing cost and complexity. What he helped build is now part of how the Army fights. We're pleased to have members of his family here today as well, his wife Jane and his son Joshua. Mr. Barry Pike. Barry spent more than 35 years leading some of the Army's most technical, complex acquisition efforts, particularly in missile defense systems. As PEO for Missiles and Space, he oversaw 33 programs, including 14 ACAT-1 programs with an annual budget reaching $8.64 billion. During his tenure, missile production increased by more than 300%. Do you want to come back? And his organization delivered hundreds of thousands of rocket launchers and radars to U.S. and allied forces. He guided major programs through critical milestones and accelerated operational needs directly into the hands of deployed units. His leadership also strengthened allied capacity through hundreds of active foreign military sales cases. Programs he steered continue to underpin the Army's integrated fires capability and contribute to the deterrence today. We're glad he's joined today by his wife Melanie and his daughter Bernie. Today, the Army acquisition workforce numbers nearly 30,000 professionals, all serving inside a system shaped by the decisions, reforms, and standards established by the leaders like the ones we're recognizing this morning. That's why this ceremony matters. They remind us of the enterprise advances because people chose to make it better than they found it and put the work in required to do exactly that. Thank you. So to our inductees, on behalf of the United States Army and the entire acquisition community, thank you for what you've contributed, for what you have built, and what you will continue to benefit soldiers because of the work you provided. We are proud to serve in a profession shaped by your example. Thank you for setting it.
Thank you, Honorable Ingraham. Honorable Ingraham and General Collins will now move to the center and begin inducting awardees. Our first inductee is Lieutenant General Retired William H. Campbell. General Campbell, please join Honorable Ingraham and General Collins. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated during the presentations. For exceptional leadership, selfless service, and enduring contributions to Army acquisition, Lieutenant General Retired William Campbell is hereby inducted into the 2025 class of the United States Army Acquisition Hall of Fame. Lieutenant General Retired Campbell dedicated 38 years in service to the warfighter, playing a fundamental and critical role in strengthening Army capabilities. As an Army acquisition leader, his innovation and commitment established the foundation for how the Army equips its forces and directly contributed to saving soldiers' lives. He was instrumental in delivering critical systems in support of Operation Desert Storm, Operation Allied Force, and the global war on terror. Through his visionary leadership, Lieutenant General Campbell advanced technologies whose impact will continue to shape Army readiness for decades to come. Lieutenant General Campbell's profound and enduring contributions supporting the nation reflect great credit upon the United States Army and honor the Army acquisition workforce. We will now, go ahead, sorry. We will now hear remarks from Lieutenant General Retired Campbell.
This is a humbling experience. I am so proud of the Army Acquisition Corps, and I was honored to serve in leadership positions, and I was honored to serve with the workforces who did all the heavy lifting, and they're the ones who really earned this award. When I got the call last August that I was being inducted, it was a complete surprise, which really made it all the more special. And I thought back over the years, and my mind always went back to the soldier. And it went back to those 13 years when I served in leadership positions in Army acquisition, when I worked with the Army's finest, military and civilians. And as I thought back over 50 years, there were many memories, and I'd like to share a couple of those with you. First, I thought back to 1975 when the Army was flat out broke. We were at least 10 years behind the Soviets because they'd updated their forces when we were fighting wars in Southeast Asia. But I was so proud to think back about the 15 years that followed that when Army acquisition, before the Corps was established, took on the challenges, revitalized the Army, and produced a force so strong that as part of the Joint Force, we vanquished an Iraqi army using those modern Soviet systems in 100 hours of shock and awe. And when I thought back to how did we do this, what did we really do? What were the major vectors and muscle movements? And three came to mind. The first was better training of the individual soldiers, training to performance measures, task conditions, and standards. The second was the national training centers, where we took our brigades into force-on-force experiments against a world-class op force, and they were prepared for war when they were deployed. But on top of all that, they couldn't have done it despite that training if they didn't have the world's best weapon systems. And that's where the Corps can really take pride. The Big Five really worked. Despite all of the challenges with the technologies and despite having to perform under what some have described as the world's most complex business system. So as we finished that war and looked at where we stood and looked at the lessons learned, General Sullivan, Chief of Staff of the Army, and Jay Garner at that point in time called me in and said, we have to leverage the power of the microprocessor to move ahead and stay ahead. And it was an awesome privilege to be part of that effort. We took on the challenges and we built systems that had precision strike capabilities and systems that would allow our forces to see first, decide first, and act first. After the digitization experiments, we had systems in place that helped in the succeeding efforts over the next years of Iraq and Afghanistan and all of the challenges that we faced then. But at the end of the day, as I looked at my experiences and I looked at the Army's Acquisition Corps, I believed that we set a new standard and that the Corps can be extremely proud of its deliveries that we made at that time. I believe that we were inspired by the quality and the dedication of the workforce who considered their positions to be more than just a job. We saw things then as journeys, not as destinations, and I think you probably do the same today. Sunday night I listened to the TV and Lieutenant General retired Keith Kellogg came online, and when we digitized the Army, he was our counterpart in TRADOC. And he said, the bottom line is our stuff worked. So you did good. I'm proud of you. You should be proud of each other's. Army strong.
Thank you, General Campbell. Our next inductee is Ms. Tracey Pinson. Receiving the award for her in her honor is her daughter, Ms. Maya Dennis. Ms. Dennis, please join Honorable Ingraham and General Collins. For exceptional leadership, selfless service, and enduring contributions to Army acquisition, Ms. Tracey Pinson is hereby inducted into the 2025 class of the United States Army Acquisition Hall of Fame. Ms. Pinson dedicated over 32 years in public service, championing federal contracting opportunities for thousands of small businesses while advancing Army missions. She began her career as counsel to the House Committee on Small Business and later served as assistant to the Director, Office of Small Business Programs, where she oversaw a $17 billion annual program, ensuring warfighter needs were met while expanding procurement opportunities for small businesses. During this time, she also developed the Department of Defense Mentor Protégé Program, a program that endures as a vital pathway for small businesses to support the defense industrial base and provide innovative solutions for the warfighter. Ms. Pinson's profound and enduring contributions supporting the nation reflect great credit upon the United States Army and honor the Army acquisition workforce. We will now hear remarks from Ms. Dennis.
Good morning. My dad and I thank you for this extraordinary honor. It is deeply meaningful to stand here and accept this induction into the Army Acquisition Hall of Fame on behalf of my mother. My mother believed in service, not the kind that seeks recognition, but the kind that commits to excellence every single day. To many of you, she was a colleague, a leader, a problem solver. But to me, she was just my mom. I grew up watching her approach life with discipline, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. She taught me that leadership is about accountability, it's about preparation, earning trust, but most importantly, it's about getting the job done. Over the course of her career, she helped shape programs that opened doors for thousands of small businesses to work with the Army. As you heard, under her leadership, the Army led the federal government in contract awards to small businesses for more than a decade. She was deeply committed to creating opportunities through initiatives like the Mentor Protege Program and partnerships with HBCUs and minority institutions. She got the job done, and this induction is a testament to that. She often spoke about the complexity of her work, but what stood out most was not the scale of the programs or the pressure of the mission, but it was the people. She cared deeply about her teams, she mentored generously, and she believed in developing others and leaving every organization stronger than she found it. That is the legacy that means the most to our family. This recognition affirms what we already knew, that her contributions mattered, that her work strengthened the Army, and that her leadership left a mark that endured beyond her years of service and beyond her life on this earth. While she would be humbled by this moment, she would also remind us that no one achieves success alone. She would thank her colleagues, her mentors, her teams, and the countless professionals who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to support the Army's mission. She believed deeply in collective excellence. As her daughter, I am profoundly proud of her dedication, proud of her integrity, proud of the example she set, not only for me, but for everyone who had the privilege of working alongside her. Today, we celebrate her professional achievements, but we also celebrate her character, her strength, her commitment to service, and the steady leadership that defined her career. On behalf of my dad and I, thank you for honoring her work. We are grateful beyond words, and Mom, we are incredibly proud of you.
Thank you, Ms. Nettis. Our next inductee is Mr. Harry P. Hallock. Mr. Hallock, please join Honorable Ingraham and General Collins. For exceptional leadership, selfless service, and enduring contributions to Army acquisition, Mr. Harry Hallock is hereby inducted into the 2025 class of the United States Army Acquisition Hall of Fame. Mr. Hallock served over 37 years, beginning as a contract specialist intern at Army Contracting Command Warren, U.S. Army Tank, Automotive, and Armaments Command, and then rising to the executive director position in that organization, where his leadership shaped the command into a strong and highly skilled contracting agency. He later served as the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army for Procurement, where his deep contracting expertise drove critical policy and procedural changes, influenced legislation, and modernized acquisition practices. His commitment to the workforce growth, training, diversity strengthened the Army acquisition community and left a lasting legacy of professionalism and excellence. Harry Hallock's profound and enduring contributions supporting the nation reflect great credit upon the United States Army and the honor of the Army acquisition workforce. We will now hear remarks from Mr. Hallock.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm blown away. I'm amazed, surprised, and what a wonderful way to recognize a career. Much appreciated. Although I couldn't help, when I saw the press release, wonder if there wasn't an additional criteria this year. Harry, Gary, and Barry. Coincidence? Some of you may freak out when you see where I'm going to start here, but please don't. I'll wrap it up very quickly. Go back to the spring of 1979. I was a senior at the University of Delaware, looking forward to getting my Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, and I had a friend, Marie McCullough, who was a political science major. And she asked me if I would take her. I had a car on campus, she didn't. if I would take her to take this test to go work for the federal government. Why would anyone want to do that? But, and I had to drive her up to the federal building in Philadelphia for her to take the exam, and I sat out in the hallway waiting. I was only out there about 5 minutes when the facilitator came out and said, "What are you doing here?" Well, I drove my friend. She's in there taking the test. He said, "Well, you see that room? There's a lot of empty seats. Get your ass in there. Take the test." And so I still vividly remember him standing up in front of the room and saying, "The federal government is a very discerning employer. There's 5 sections to this test. You must pass all 5 sections to even be considered for a job with the federal government." Okay, sounds cool. We took the test, we left, drove home, back to campus. A week or so later, maybe a month, we got the results. I passed all 5 sections. She failed all 5 sections. Okay, well that was an interesting event. So never gave it another thought. My graduation present was a trip to Germany where I was born. And I went over there and had a wonderful summer, and then came home and there was a recession and jobs were tough. I'm like, geez, maybe I should have thought this through a little more. I ended up, long story, going with my brother out to California to look for work there. Absolutely hated it. But while I was out there, I got a letter from the Army that said, "Hey, we're hiring at Fort Monmouth, Dover, New Jersey," which is Picatinny Arsenal, and this place called Warren, Michigan. "We'll get back to you when we get your name on the list." Well, I was so happy to hear back to the East Coast, New Jersey, right next door to Delaware, yes. Used the last bit of money I had to fly home, and then stayed with my mom and waited. And my mom's like, "Listen, son, I'm going to start charging you rent here." So I got up the nerve to call. I had a phone number. I called. I said, "Hey, I got this letter saying I'm on this list." And they said, "Well, we've filled all the positions in Fort Monmouth and Dover, so your name's still on the list. We fill them all the time. We'll get to you at some point." Oh, okay. Didn't think it worked that way. And then before the secretary hung up, she said, "But by the way, would you be willing to move to Warren, Michigan for a job?" Warren, Michigan? Yeah. Hung up. 5 minutes later, the phone rings. Her boss was on the line. "Hey, my secretary asked you a question. I'm going to ask you that same question. Would you be willing to move to Warren, Michigan?" I had no clue where Warren, Michigan was. I knew where Michigan was. And I said yes. And he said, "Great, I'm going to put her on the phone and schedule an interview." Back then, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have, I remember we had an atlas somewhere up in the attic, but I was too lazy to go up and get it to try and find out where this Warren, Michigan was. Went up for the interview. I can picture the office. And I'm sitting there, and the secretary says, "Okay, you can go in now." I get to the doorway, and he stops me, and he says, "I'm going to ask one more time." And by now, I'm slow on the uptake, but something's going on here. And so I said, kind of hesitantly, "Yes." He said, "Great, you got the job. Now sit down, let me interview you." So finally, at the end of the interview, I said, "Hey, look, I'm a little slow on the uptake, but what's going on here?" And he said, "You know what? Nothing's going on. I can't get people from the East Coast to go to the Midwest. So the fact that you're willing to go to the Midwest, you're going to a command that's one of the best acquisition commands in the Army, and you will learn a lot about acquisition there." Okay, now I did go home and finally drag that atlas out and saw it was a suburb of Detroit, and almost said, "What the hell?" Best thing that ever happened to me. I show up on February 11th, 1980. Back then they called them procurement interns. I got a bit of a slow start because I kept forgetting the second E in procurement. So I'm a procurement intern that doesn't know how to spell procurement. Took me a while, but I got it. Kept leaving that second E out. And it just was a magical, amazing career that I fell in love with right away. I tell people I fell in love with the job first, the people second. And then I love living in the suburbs of Detroit. It was a great, great place to live. There are great people there. And it was all about the people you worked with. And you learn very quickly, acquisition is, to me, Army acquisition is the ultimate team sport. Nothing I accomplished would have been accomplished without the people there. And I'm talking contract specialists, engineers, PEOs, program managers, resource management personnel, specialists, scientists, R&D folks. I mean, oh my gosh, I think of all the different career fields I worked with in the course of my career and that helped make the programs I worked on successful. And I think back and I love some of the successes I've had, did some great things that I like to think had a long-term impact on the Army and the Army acquisition process. But again, it was because of those people. Some of the most intelligent, innovative, dedicated, hardest working people in any acquisition business anywhere in the world, private or public, are in the United States Army. And you all out there are the proof of it. And so what I'd like to do now, I want to, because I retired 9 years ago, unlike many, I didn't get back involved on the other side of the fence, which is, it's fine, I hope for those that did. I didn't. I enjoy my retired life, but I miss the people. And I would love, now that I'm standing up before you today, to thank those people. And I'm trying to think of how I could do it that helped me in my career. Here's how I'm going to try and do it. Ryan Stacy, stand up. Ryan Stacy works at TACOM. He came in the, early 2000s. And while I was the director of the, I wasn't the director yet. I became the director. Ryan, here's what thank you so much for coming and representing TACOM. Don't sit down yet. What I need you to do is I need you to go back. And when you walk those halls and tell people, guess what I did? I went and saw Harry go get inducted into the Army Hall of Fame. Then you have to tell them, he thanks you. And you got to thank and that everyone if they don't know who I am, who I was, you got to say, guess what? I was, and if it includes the commanding general, stop the commanding general and tell him the best contracting person. Don't tell him that. Tell him that TACOM was a part of my journey, 33 years of my journey, and I am forever grateful. Do that? Thank you. Kim Bueller. Where's Kim? Kim. What I need you to do is, my tour as DASP was, again, it was a wonderful time in that job. It was lots going on. There was a little bit of discord, and the effort was to try and bring people back together and make them feel like a part of the team. And while we were revamping the entire Army Federal Acquisition Regulation, which we accomplished, and when I say we, you and your folks did it. So please, when you run into those folks who worked under me here in the building, please let them know how much I thank them for their efforts. Dan Gallagher. Where's Dan Gallagher? Dan was, when I was a contracting officer, Dan was a captain. He was dating one of my contract specialists. And he married her. And if I remember right, I gave you my living room furniture when I bought my first house because I didn't need it anymore. So anyway, and our paths have crossed back and forth ever since. I know you and your team worked very hard on this package, nominating me, and I, again, thank you so very much. I'm just really appreciative. Please let the people know that worked so hard on this, how much I appreciate what they did. Thank you. And finally, Jeff Parsons. Great career, worked my butt off. I loved working my butt off. I got to be a division chief at TACOM, which was a GS-15. Wow, who'd have thunk this little country boy from Little Heaven, Delaware, would end up there. I thought it was a great part of my career. I'd been in 27 years. I thought I'd done enough to maybe coast at that 15 level. I'm still going to contribute. I'm still going to work hard, but this is it. This is a great goal to have had. And then I made the mistake of calling you and saying, will you be my mentor? And I still remember you said, well, do you want to be an SES? Hell no. Okay, then I'm not going to waste my time with you. I said, look, I've thought that through. I think it's great. I just don't think it's for me. He said, why don't you spend a little more time thinking about it and call me back? Thank you so much for forcing me to think about it again. Becoming the director of the Contracting Center for 7 years and then coming up here for 4 years was just an amazing experience that I felt bridged the gap between the field and headquarters, where policy is generated. And it was just absolutely amazing to see the disconnects, frankly, and to be someone who could help with those disconnects. I remember I told myself, Don't try and change that building. You'll just beat your head against the wall and go home with a headache every day. Look for targets of opportunity to make a difference. And guess what? There are so many targets of opportunity to make a difference. And I like to think I made a few of them. Thank you all so very, very much. Thank you, sir, for looking at me.
Thank you, Mr. Hallock. Our next inductee is Mr. Gary P. Martin. Mr. Martin, please join Honorable Ingraham and General Collins. For exceptional leadership, selfless service, and enduring contributions to Army acquisition, Mr. Gary Martin is hereby inducted into the 2025 class of the United States Army Acquisition Hall of Fame. As the Program Executive Officer for Command, Control, and Communications Tactical, Mr. Martin's leadership ensured secure and reliable communications that kept commanders and soldiers connected and informed in even the most austere and hostile environments. Over his distinguished 34-year Army civilian career, he was instrumental in delivering command, control, communications, computers, cyber, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, C5ISR, capabilities across the full acquisition lifecycle, advancing science and technology solutions, fielding cutting-edge network, radio, and satellite systems, and sustaining critical C5ISR operations. Mr. Martin's profound and enduring contributions supporting the nation reflect great credit upon the United States Army and honor the Army acquisition workforce. We will now hear remarks from Mr. Martin.
Good morning. Just a few thanks. First, to the Honorable Ingraham for hosting today's ceremony. Also to Rob Collins, Mr. Tollison. I mean, 30 years in acquisition, and it seemed like every few years there was some other major realignment of how we do business and so forth. And I don't think anything as significant as what's going on now. So I can't think of three better leaders to lead the Army acquisition through this current phase of transition. So thank you for what you do. For everyone here today, thanks for attending. 3 of the ASALTs of the 5 ASALTs I've worked with over the year are here today. It's an interesting business because you never stop learning, right? If you try to get into the job and think you know everything, you're going to fail right away. I mean, it's very much a team sport. It's a team sport with lots of refs. Lots of refs and lots of umpires and lots of complexity and rules. And so you can't get through this without partnership, teaming, and so forth. Which gets me to the inductees. I've worked with all of the inductees today. Going back as far as 1992 when I was working for General Campbell as a project leader on a satellite program. And he's been a tremendous mentor for me throughout my entire career. Every one of the inductees I've worked with, some more than others, but I can vouch for why they're here today. So congratulations to all of you. Another round of applause. I do want to thank, as I think everyone has mentioned, there's a lot of people that deliver the products that we are put in charge of or are responsible for. It goes from project leaders to contract professionals to testers, contractors. It really is a tremendous team that has to deliver capability. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the people that I've had the honor to work with and for over the years. They deserve this as much as I do, and so I thank them, some of which are in the audience here today. So thank you all for what you have done for the Army acquisition, for delivering capability, and for getting me here today. So thank you very much. To Phil, Marlo, and Lieutenant Colonel Ruth, I don't leave Maine much. I've retired and I've decided to live a life of exile, as my wife would probably call it, up in Maine. And so they were very helpful in helping coordinating the logistics of getting here and through the building. And it seems to be harder to get in the Pentagon than I remember from a few years ago. But thank you for your support and for all those that helped coordinate the ceremony. I want to thank my wife Jane, my son Joshua, who are here today, my daughter Jessica, who couldn't be here, and my son Jeremy, who couldn't be here as well. You know, acquisition is lots of travel, lots of meetings, lots of transitions and BRAC moves and everything else that has occurred. And you know, I probably, as my wife would remind me, probably spent more time at work than I did at home. And so without their support, I certainly would not have gotten anywhere that I've gotten in life. So thank you very much. I love you all, and thank you for being here today. I do a little bit of consulting. A lot of the people that I continue to work with are here today, General Halverson and the team at Cypress. Friends that I've worked with have come down here today as well. They're all retired. They don't get out much, but I guess they want to get back to the Pentagon one last time. I don't know. But thank you all for being here today and making the trip. You know, this has been my life's work. It's been a great time, great career, and I wouldn't have wanted to spend it any other way. So thank you all for your friendship, your mentorship, your leadership over the years, and for this honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Our final inductee is Mr. Barry J. Pike. Sir, please join Honorable Ingraham and General Collins. For exceptional leadership, selfless service, and enduring contributions to Army acquisition, Mr. Barry Pike is hereby inducted into the 2025 class of the United States Army Acquisition Hall of Fame. Over a distinguished 35-year career, Mr. Pike demonstrated acquisition leadership from managing national missile defense and anti-satellite programs to senior executive oversight of Army modernization efforts, including leading the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense Milestone Decision and helping to establish the Kinetic Energy Anti-Satellite Joint Program Office. As Program Executive Officer for Missiles and Space, he directed 33 acquisition programs, managed an $8.64 billion annual budget, oversaw 1,200 contracts, and expanded foreign military sales supporting global readiness. Later, as Director of the Weapons Development and Integration Directorate at Combat Capabilities Development Command Aviation and Missile Center, he aligned missile technology development with Army acquisition priorities. Mr. Pike's profound and enduring contributions supporting the nation reflect great credit upon the United States Army and honor the Army acquisition workforce. We will now hear from Mr. Pike.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, Honorable Ingraham, General Collins, Mr. Tollison, members of the SES, both current and former, I really appreciate everybody taking some time out of their very busy schedules today. Heinous, I'm sure, probably doesn't begin to address it. You know, when Gary Martin and I started about 40 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that for some of us. You know, we were both really tall and really good looking, and we had more hair on our head, and I don't know what happened, but anyway, such is life. Let me add my thanks as well to Marlo and Philip and Lieutenant Colonel Hahn and everyone that was involved in planning and executing the ceremony. These kind of things just don't happen by accident. A lot of time and hard work goes into those, and we really do appreciate your work. When I got the call as well, I was kind of like, we don't answer the phone very much, you know, the landline. And it's kind of like, the Pentagon, you got to be kidding me. What? This is a hoax kind of thing. And they said, well, you're going to be inducted into the Army Acquisition Hall of Fame. And I said, well, I've never heard of such a thing. You mean we have one? I'm really excited about that. So, excellent. And so I do appreciate everybody that was involved in the nomination and the selection process. Like everybody said, this is really a team sport, and it's all about the people. There's nothing individually we could have really accomplished on our own. These are big teams of teams across a lot of activities. I am profoundly humbled and honored to be inducted this year with this cohort. Congratulations again to my fellow inductees. I have worked with most of them as well over a period of time, and most everybody in the audience, in the auditorium today, and it's quite an honor to see you all again. So I got to thinking about, well, why the call and why to me and why now? A lot of those why questions come up, and so The first thing that comes to mind is, well, the person standing before you is evidence that the Lord is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in loving kindness. And so that's my first reason. And I didn't necessarily follow David Letterman, and I don't have time for the top 10 anyway, but that's kind of the one that stuck out in my mind. And so while I really appreciate the recognition, it just would not have been possible without God, without my family, without the community, without the educators and mentors and all of that workforce across the Army acquisition workforce, with our defense industry partners, with academia, with our great requirements generation community, our resourcing community, our contracting community, all the things you guys are putting together as a whole now to deliver capabilities much faster and much cheaper and much better than we ever could. And I really appreciate that. I think it's spot on. When Mr. Tollison called me, I was a big fan immediately of trying to empower leaders to do more. I really am. So let me thank my wife, my two daughters who weren't able to join us today, and the rest of my family. My mother-in-law is actually having heart surgery, probably right now. So the rest of our family couldn't be here, but certainly I appreciate my family for all their support and unconditional love. And I'm proud of you, and I certainly wouldn't be here without them. Thanks to all of our military personnel for your service and hard work and dedication and professionalism across many years and wherever our country has called you over time. Particularly difficult time in our nation's history at the moment. I'm grateful to have served our warfighters and taxpayers as a civil servant. I watched Kevin Fahey's thing, and he said, you know, it was my dream to be a civil servant. That's me. It was my dream. Because of the way I was brought up, the military family that I was a part of, and those kind of things, growing up in the 1960s, close to Redstone Arsenal, the space race, and all the history that was being made, I thought, you know, no matter what job I had in the Army, I always thought it was the best job in the Army. I was forever grateful. At any rate, I'm really happy to have worked alongside a lot of you, and I'm glad that a lot of the CPEs, PAEs, and a lot of the acquisition workforce could be here today and joining us online. And I'm, again, completely humbled and honored. Thanks for the memories. There's no doubt I would do it all again. Maybe not for 35 years. I'm not sure I got that much gas in the tank, but absolutely I loved my time. And this will defend Army strong.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Ingraham, General Collins, Mr. Campbell, Mr. Dennis, Mr. Hallock, Mr. Martin, please join Mr. Pike on stage. Please join me in an additional round of applause for the Army Acquisition Hall of Fame, Class of 2025. The Hall of Fame plaque will now be unveiled, inducting Lieutenant General Retired William H. Campbell, Ms. Tracey L. Pinson, Mr. Harry P. Hallock, Mr. Gary P. Martin, and Mr. Barry G. Pike. Please move to the bottom of the stage and stand in your area for the unveiling. A rendering of these plaques will be displayed on the Hall of Fame wall outside of ASALT headquarters. Escorts on 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing and join, please stand and join in the playing of the Army song and the departure of the official party. This concludes today's ceremony. Please come forward and congratulate the class of 2025 Army Acquisition Corps Hall of Fame inductees. Please do not use the center aisle. Move to the far left where you are seated and greet the inductees along the side as you exit the auditorium. Thank you.